Okay, everybody. I think I started this and then looked away. Okay, here I am. So we're talking about water today. Welcome to the Henophess Morning Show, where we're going to talk about real health rooted in real traditions. Nothing that I'm going to talk about here is intended to diagnose, treat, or prescribe. It's for educational purposes only. You get to choose how you use this information. So yesterday I told you that we were going to talk about water. I mentioned distilled water being one of those important ones. So let's get into it. Before we talk about like the different types of water, what's the point of water? When we talk about hydration, okay, water's to hydrate, right? And we talk about hydration and all of these. Well, let me back up for a second because not everybody knows me here. So let me share a little bit of background. Um, I grew up with 8 sisters and 2 brothers in the middle of nowhere. My dad started working with clients in 1980. As he worked with clients, if something wasn't working, he'd make an herbal formula to get the job done. Never advertised a day in his life and supported all of us just from getting people better. And they talked about him. So I grew up seeing dad create miracles and wanted to do that since I was age 12. And that had been my main course of study from 12 till today, so over 20 years, especially since I was homeschooled, so I didn't have anything else distracting from it. And then I worked with my dad with his clinics, started a couple of my own. My dad passed away, so I was running 5 clinics in New Mexico, shut them all down, and eventually ended up in Utah. When I was in Utah, starting fresh, didn't have anyone that knew anything about me or my dad. And so in starting fresh, I went to a little health food store and they were willing to let me just work out of the back. I would make money on my office visits. They'd make money on the herbs. And within a year, I was seeing 140 clients a month without any advertising, just getting people better. They talk about you. Okay. So that's a little bit of my background. Been doing this for a long time. I've lived it. I've never had a drug really in my life except for when I took a painkiller after I broke my arm. And I was actually using our natural painkiller for a while and it worked. And then I used something else that didn't work any better. So I just went back to it. So a little bit of history about me. Now, water. Okay, so we're talking about hydration, and everybody when they talk hydration, like there's an even a supplement that you can take that says that it's for hydration. Now, it actually has nothing to do with actual hydration. It has to do with holding on to your hydration. So the only thing that's actually hydration is water. The only thing that actually hydrates your cells and creates moisture in your cells is water. Everything else that is mentioned when it comes to hydration is to keep it in the cells, is not to hydrate. They're just there to hold the water there, not to actually hydrate you. What we need is water. Okay. So we talk about these different waters. Okay, there's a lot of different waters. There's they'll say, oh, you gotta have high mineral water. If you drink RO water, you gotta add mineral to it. If you drink distilled water, don't do that because it'll demineralize you. So what do? What water do you drink? If you paid attention to all the different things out there about water, you'd have a hard time drinking any water because somebody's got something bad to say about every bit of water. So let's break down the actual logic of this and actual hydration and what's important water wise. So if you're getting a good clean water that your body can use well, you need about 40% of your body weight in ounces if everything's normal. If you don't have higher salts and sugars that your body needs to wash out, if you don't have extra garbage that your body needs to deal with, then you need about 40% of your body weight in ounces. If the water isn't as good, it's more full of stuff, sometimes you need more because there's a certain amount of water you need. Okay. And we'll talk about the differences here in a second. So, good clean water, it's important. Now, there's a good, better, best to water. It's better to just drink any water than it is to drink no water. You should, even if you had to drink tap water, it's not great. I know there's plenty of bad things that we could go into that, and somebody's going to be frustrated with me for saying, oh, you can even drink tap water. Yeah, if you have the choice of no water or tap water, drink tap water. But so the first thing is it's most important to get the water. For me, I weigh 200 pounds. I should drink 80 ounces of water a day when I have everything normal. If I needed to wash out extra garbage, I may need to go up to half my body weight in ounces or a little bit more. So first thing, drink your water, okay? No matter what. Now, the only thing that counts towards water is water. And there's things that count against your water, okay? So the only thing that actually counts for your water is water. And if you get anything else, then it either doesn't count at all or it counts against. So there's 7 main things that count against your water. So there's green tea, black tea, white tea, coffee, alcohol, and soda. I guess it's 6. So there's 6 different things that count against it, and those count up by 5 times. So if you drink 1 cup of water, you have to drink 5 cups of 1 cup of water? No. If you drink 1 cup of any of those, the green tea, black tea, white tea, coffee, alcohol, or soda, you have to drink 5 cups of water to break even, to be able to water them down sufficiently to do something with them. They're just too concentrated to use. And there's other that kind of fall in that category, but those are the main ones that people consume. So if you're drinking any of those and not drinking water, then you're overly dehydrated. I'm hoping that I get to hit this whole subject today. If I have a lot of callers, then I may not be able to get to everything. If I don't have a lot of callers, I still might not hit the whole subject of water today. At first, when I thought of recording this, it's how am I going to do an hour talk about water? Well, I got plenty of information here for you today. So there's things that count against your water, and there's things that count for your water, okay? And so we don't want to, the thing is, if you were really hydrated, if everything was going good, and you're perfectly healthy, you could handle some of those things that count against. But when you're having a harder time getting hydrated, having the things that count against, it means that you have to do more and more by 5 times. So if you drink 5 cups or 10 cups of any of these, you would have to drink 20 cups. Well, 5 times 10. You'd have to drink 50 cups. My brain's not doing the math today. You'd have to drink 50 cups of water. That is insane. There's 126 ounces in a gallon. And so you would be doubling or quadrupling the amount of water you need to drink. Okay? So the only thing that counts towards water is water. So a lot of people ask, oh, can I put electrolytes in it? Well, no. It doesn't count as water at that point. But electrolytes help me get hydrated. But hold on a second. Let me explain it. So I had a client just like this. He comes into me, and his numbers, his salts were through the roof. So I measure the conductivity of the urine. So his electricity in his urine was really high. And what I could see, total dissolved solids in his urine, includes sugars and other varieties of things, was really high. His specific gravity was really high. So that shows that he just wasn't getting enough hydration. But he was drinking a lot of liquid. And he rode bikes as marathons and other things like that. And this guy has been conscious about health for a long time and really trying to do everything. But he's listening to everybody saying the electrolytes and all that. If you're riding bikes, you've got to have all these things. And so he's working hard. And yet he's had 4-ish heart surgery, open heart surgeries, valve replacements, and other garbage like that. Major issues with cholesterol and things. And now he tells people, I've done more for him than anyone else has. And what I did is I taught him how to drink water properly and what water to actually drink. So he would come in, and when I found out how much water liquid he was drinking, I asked him how much water. He told me how much, and then I was like, okay, only thing that counts as water is water. And I found he's always putting electrolytes or something in it. And so I had to have him take all of the electrolytes out and just drink plain water for a little bit because he had so much storage of electrolytes, he didn't need any extra. He just needed plain water while he was biking. And then he would test me out, and his numbers would be good, and then he would try using some, and his numbers would be up. And I was like, man, just get your own tool. He got his own tool. He can dip in his urine and check his salts. And then when he started to do that, he was able to see, okay, he was allowed to have electrolytes when it called for it. If his electrolytes, if his conductivity of his urine was too high, then he didn't get any extra. And when he started actually drinking that way, it made a huge difference in the whole way he operates, because we are about 60% water. When we're young, we're even more than that. As we get older, we get down to like 55. But the hydration through our cells, we are more water than we are anything else. And to get the right type of water to actually hydrate us is huge and super vitally important. And when we get that, it affects every aspect of the body, especially the pump that moves the bulk of our liquid, right? So if you clean up your liquid, the pump pumps. The pump would pump it easier, right? And that's exactly what happened for him. His pump worked so much better, and he's able to perform better on bike, and everything just operated better because he's getting proper hydration. So the only thing that counts as water is water. Putting extra salt in your water doesn't make it count as water anymore. You need plain water. Now, if we don't have mineral in our water, it demineralizes us. We're gonna hit that subject. It's not that it actually demineralizes you. You should be consistently getting mineral, and all you're doing when you're putting in your water is you're adding mineral to your water versus mineral to your food. And mineral, let's talk about actually getting mineral, because this is a big aspect of why we would drink water a certain way and which waters actually are beneficial versus not. So when we get mineral, the best place to get mineral is actually after it's been absorbed through plants. It's best to get it through plants, but we're not always getting it through plants. And if we're not getting it through plants, it's best to actually consume that mineral while we're eating foods, because there's acids and enzymes and other things that actually help the utilization of those minerals. There's fats and other things like that that make it possible for us to use that mineral. When we're drinking water, we actually don't have all of those things stirring up and mixing and working quite the same way as we do when we're eating. So you're actually better off getting your electrolytes, your minerals, all of your mineral sources. You're better off getting those with food and having plain water. So then it comes down to the actual absorption of those minerals. So the best minerals you can get that are most bioavailable, most easy for your body to use, are those that have already been processed through plant tissue. Even if we take mineral and we micronize it down to the point that it can stay stable in water, it'll pass through the cells and stuff, but it actually doesn't get utilized as well as the mineral that has been translated through plant tissue. We can use a variety of other minerals. Our body does use it, but it's best that if we are using other minerals that aren't in plant tissues, that they're mixed with our food, because that's where they should be. That's where our body thinks they should be coming from. And that's where our body has put together the processes to use them. They should be in there and utilized that way. And then we should have plenty of those minerals and nutrients in that process to actually help us properly function and be able to use those water. So those electrolytes should already be there ready to use the water. And as long as those electrolytes, because we actually want more electrolytes in the cells than we do out of the cells, because there's an osmosis process that actually draws the moisture in because of the extra electrolytes in the cells. If there's too much salt in our colon, it draws it into our colon. If there's more salt in our cells, it draws it into our cells. And so having too much salt in our water, that's why we can't drink seawater, because there's too much salt in it, and it actually draws the moisture out of our cells instead of absorbing moisture into our cells. Is this making sense? So electrolytes are in a sense like a sponge. They're the sponge that sucks up the moisture and holds on to it so we can use it. And the less electrolytes we have, the less sponge there is. But what we're looking for is the water. We want that sponge to be well saturated, and it can only hold on to so much. And the bigger the sponge is, the more it can hold on. The more electrolytes, the more it can hold on to it. But if you get that sponge too big or the electrolytes too much, then you hold on to too much, and now there's extra pressure and everything gets thicker and it's harder for everything to move around in the body. And that's why we need to have a consistent moving in and out. Okay, so mineral absorption is important, works better with food than it does just in water. And whatever we're going to get in water is going to be mm, regular spring water is going to have a minimal amount to do anything. If you get like a mineral dense water, like a mineral water, they taste disgusting in my opinion. And we're still like, we're getting electrolytes, but we aren't getting all of the actual different minerals that our body should be getting. And they're coming from more of rock sources versus plant sources. So let's get into the different types of water and the way that they work. Now, I don't want to overmelt your brain, but we're gonna get kind of a little scientific here, but I want to make it as simple as possible. And at any time at this point, anyone that's out there listening, you're welcome to call in, and you would call in our number at 816-826-1533. So you're welcome to call in at any point and ask questions about hydration and water if you have any. If you're not on this live, you're welcome to put in a comment, and I'll look at them later. Or if you have another video or something you want us to talk about. So different types of water. The general consensus today is you should drink water with mineral in it. If it doesn't have, if you get reverse osmosis, you should put salt in it. If you get distilled water, you should put salt in it. And why is that? Why is that? And so I actually, to clarify what I understood versus what other people think, I had a conversation with an AI to kind of go back and forth, and actually with more than one, and to figure out like what people think can actually clarify this process, so I could teach it a little more clearly to you. So with water, you have to realize in water there's potential for holding on to mineral. There's some scientific terms for it. But a spring water has less potential for holding on to mineral than a distilled water does. And a mineralized water has less potential, even more so if it has any room. So if you took a distilled water and you filled it full of salt, as much as it would hold, and you took a spring water and filled it full of salt, as much as it would hold, and took a water that is already a mineral water and filled it full, you'll find that the distilled water actually has a greater capacity for keeping ions in solution, for keeping these minerals in solution, actually grabbing a hold of them. So it has a better space. So if you measure these after you fill them full, your distilled water has the potential to hold the most. Did you get that? The distilled water has the potential to hold the most mineral in solution. The spring water actually has the potential to hold the least, because you've already got a lot of it in the mineral water, but in your spring water, it's not charged properly to actually hold on to the ions. It's not very good on holding on to ions. Your mineral water doesn't have any room for any more. Okay, so you're just going to get that. So if you just, in this aspect, if you drink your mineralized water, high mineral water or whatever, you're only going to get the mineral that's in that water. You aren't going to get any mineral out of your digestive tract because there's not room to pick up what's in the food. So that means if you're eating really good foods and you have all these minerals, you have to have water to transport those minerals into the cells. And the water that you're consuming is going to help with that, or it's going to have to draw water from your cells into that area to actually pick up those minerals. So your water you consume, if it already is full of mineral, there is no room for more mineral to go in. And so you're going to waste all the mineral from your food, and you're only going to absorb what's in the water. If you drink the water that's spring water, then you have a diminished ability to get that mineral out of your food. So all those wonderful minerals you've consumed with your vegetables or whatever it is, or minerals you took, you only have a small potential to get that mineral out. Now with distilled water, you actually can hold on to the max amount. So you have the best potential to absorb the mineral that is in the food that you just consumed. And then once you've consumed this, once it goes into the digestive tract, get into the bloodstream, your body is not distilled water at that point. It's not. At that point, it's done. It's no longer distilled water. It is now mineral rich water from your diet, unless you didn't have any mineral in your diet, then it's still empty water. But if you had good mineral in your diet, it has all the mineral possible from what you consumed that is able to transition and drop it where it's necessary in the body. So uh, distilled water has the ability to pick up the most mineral from your diet. Spring water has the next amount that's possible to pick up. Well, let's put reverse osmosis in there. Reverse osmosis also has the ability to pick it up, but it can't pick up as much as distilled. So distilled will pick up the most. Reverse osmosis will pick up the next. Spring water will pick up the next. And a mineral water won't pick up any because there's no room left. So as a mineralizing thing, the reason why distilled water would be known as it demineralizes you or other things like that. One of the reasons it appears to demineralize you is, one, people drink too much water at once. And if you drink too much water at once, you will overwhelm the amount of mineral that's there. And what will happen is a large portion of that will just straight get urinated out. You'll dump instead of use. And so drinking a little bit often is more beneficial. And it doesn't take as much. It doesn't take as much distilled water to get the mineral you need from your food and to hydrate you, because there is more hydrogen and oxygen molecules per volume with distilled water than there is any other water. So say I have hydrogen and oxygen water, and I have some more hydrogen and oxygen, and how tightly they bind together. They are bound closest together in a steam distilled water because it turns to steam and they rebind together as tightly as they can get. In a reverse osmosis, they're still kind of separated from each other. They haven't rebound together. In a spring water, there's a lot of mineral in between them. In a mineral water, there's a lot of space in between them. There's less hydrogen and oxygen per volume. In distilled water, you've got the most. So you need to use the least. If you already have an issue drinking water and getting the right volume, then a distilled water is actually your best option. But you could appear to demineralize yourself if you have a diet that lacks in mineral. If you aren't actually getting the mineral you need, distilled water is going to make it obvious, or more obvious, because it's going to show the reality, because it's not taking care of symptoms or putting a band-aid on it or making it feel like things are normal just drinking the spring water. And you don't have to drink as much. Now, it's not an all-time thing, because as mankind, we couldn't have always just had distilled water. We couldn't have always just had rainwater. We had to rely on spring water and other things like that, which were okay. And they're just fine if your body is operating well and healthy and you're getting plenty of mineral through your diet. But if you're struggling, if you struggle to drink enough water, you're better off with distilled. If you're struggling to make sure you have enough mineral and you're consuming the right mineral and you want that to absorb and you're not absorbing quite as well, then having a better one to do that. If you have extra garbage your body needs to get rid of, you're better off with the distilled water. But as your body's healthy to maintain, it maintains just fine. And it would do okay having some of the mineral water now and then, and it would do fine living largely on spring water. And we can actually make a lot of headway on spring water. But we're talking about good, better, best here, okay? So the absolute best is distilled water. Hands down, no matter whether or not you're trying to detoxify or not, because it is the best at transferring mineral into the cells. And you can see that actually in gardens. Have you ever noticed that when it rains, your grass is much greener or it grows faster than if you water it with the sprinklers? Now, you might notice that more out west than you do in other places that it rains all the time, because that's the only water it gets. But in places you actually have to water something, watering your grass with the same amount of water, or watering a plant with the same amount of water as you would get in the rain, the plant is healthier from rainwater than it is from your watered water, your well water and other things. And the reason is, if you did enough research, you'd find out the reason is because the distilled water is able to activate the mineral and transfer it into the plant better. It has room to put it into solution. It has room to take what is there and turn it into a water soluble substance that the plant can use. And for us, basically, our gut is our soil. And if we drink a good quality distilled water, so it has to be steam distilled, it will absorb the mineral that is there waiting to be absorbed, and it will take it into the body. Okay? And you also can see it with plants. You can do an experiment. You can take your, not plants, animals. You can see it with animals. If you take a cat or a dog or something like that, and you put different varieties of water, one of them being distilled, almost exclusively they'll choose distilled water. There are some occasions where certain animals that's just not the case, but in general, if they have the choice, it'd be distilled water. And if you have the choice, distilled water is your better option. So distilled water, we've talked about like the difference of mineral absorption wise. Okay, so there's a greater volume capacity of picking up mineral. So why are we so, like, it demineralizes us? And I've had people say, oh yeah, I lived in a place where we just drank just rainwater and our teeth started to have a problem and all these other things. Like, okay, you're looking at one aspect. One, how much were you drinking a day? It is easier to drink too much water of distilled water than it is on any other water. It's actually a lot more possible on distilled water than it is any other water. And two, what else were you doing? Were you getting good minerals? Were you actually providing things that could positively help the teeth? If you weren't, then things are going to drop. Obviously, because it is going to, you drink the right amount of water, you're going to get rid of the mineral every day that you should, because you should have waste. You should have old leaving, but you should also have new coming. And so if you don't constantly have new mineral coming in, then yeah, it will demineralize you by mere fact of flushing out. But you can also demineralize yourself on too much of any variety of water. It's just harder to do. So we don't blame it on those waters because it's harder. Those waters are harder to drink too much of because they're less efficient. So one of the things I want you to, that's a little bit harder to wrap our mind around. It's not about, some people say, oh, it's mostly water when it's spring water or even like orange juice. It's mostly water. But it's not about how much water to other stuff there is. It's the room. How much room does it have left? And it's room, in a sense, distilled water for the same amount of volume in a cup. So if we have a cup of distilled water, a cup of orange juice, a cup of spring water, a cup of mineral water, the one that has the greatest potential, the biggest room. Now we're talking about room as in, even if there's stuff in there, if we were looking at a room that we walk into, a bedroom or whatever, and it's space, and we have furniture in there and other things like that. Right now, the distilled water has no furniture in there, but it has a certain size room that it could hold it. Orange juice and also spring water and others like that. The distilled water has the largest room. And the other ones have smaller rooms already with furniture in it. Already have it filled full of stuff and sometimes junk. Does that make sense? There's literally, actually, because of the way it's charged, though, because of the steam distillation process, it literally has more capacity to hold on to mineral, to hold, and it lets it go. Like if it was a deionized water, it wouldn't let it go. Distilled water has been shown that it does actually let that mineral go. It doesn't just grab a hold of it and keep it in there and not let it go and move it out of the body. No, it will hold on to it and it will disperse it into the cells, and then it will move the extra garbage out. Okay, it lets it go. It has the biggest room out of any other water, out of any other liquid. And the more concentration in the liquid, like when we get to the point of the green tea, the black tea, white tea, coffee, those kind, there's so much concentration in it that it has a small room, and the room is full. It is packed full to the point that it's like it needs water to water that down. It needs to be put into a larger room. It has to have more water to actually make it so those individual elements could possibly be used. And that's why it actually dehydrates you to use those elements. Water is, if the one thing that if everybody could do properly, if everybody could drink enough water and drink it in the right increments, it would change drastically. It affects every cell of the body. It affects your nervous system. It affects so many different things. If your urine conducts a lot of electricity, what I found is if your urine conducts a lot of electricity, there's generally more hyperactivity, there's generally more anxiety, there's generally more emotional turmoil, it's harder to focus and all kinds of things. And the way I see it in my brain is that it shows the actual conductivity of the solution. It shows the conductivity of our body, really. And if it's conducting more electricity, that means more electricity can signal, which means it's harder to focus, or emotions feel more intense, or everything is just more intense because there's so much more electricity. If we got enough water, that calms down. My little sister, I told her to get her boy drinking a certain amount of water, and he's usually very intense. And if his sister's barely touching me, like freaks out, and like she has to hold him back from being mean. And she got him to drink enough water, and then one time she calls me, she's like, I don't know if this is normal, but his sister just hit him, and he sat down and was sad. He didn't freak out. He didn't go after her, beating her up or anything like that. And I was like, no, that's more normal. You didn't like freak out. I was able to manage it and actually be sad about it versus just get angry. And that's actually what happens when the water gets down to normal. You'll see kids, if you can get those salts down to normal, if you can get them drinking enough water, everything calms down and cools down and gets so much better. The way our digestive tract moves, the suppleness of our skin, how clear our eyes are, how dry our mouth feels, how our stomach works, everything. With food, the most you can possibly change in your body is 30%. Well, 30, maybe 50%. No, I'd say it's 30 because there's more things than just what you're getting in food. Okay. But say it's water or food. Okay. Then as you get older, you're looking at about 45% is the most that it could do. In a younger stage, it's about 30% is the most that food could affect your health. And supplements, even less. Anything you take in, or even less. But all combined, supplements, food, everything that you consume that isn't water only has the possibility of being or affecting you 30% to 45% if you're old. That's it. So over 60 to 55% to 60% of everything could be improved, and it influences everything is getting your hydration proper. So if you don't know what your salts are, the conductivity of your urine, if you want to find out the conductivity of your urine, I'll put a link below that you can actually go and you can get a tester. There's a lot of them that if you get the wrong one, you're not going to be getting the right numbers. But with this tool, it should read when you dip it in there between like a 5 and a 10. If it's in that range, the conductivity is good. And you're drinking probably about the right amount of water, or food and water may be kind of balanced. But if it's high, if it's above that 10, you need more. If it's below 10, you need less. When you get that water into the right range, everything just starts to stabilize. The amount, if everything's normal, okay, everything's normal, you should be drinking 40% of your body weight in ounces. And your body will do best with that, with being able to pick up mineral. They'll pick up mineral better. It'll absorb into cells better, and overall operate better for your hydration if you divide that into little bits throughout the day. So for somebody like me that weighs 200 pounds, the most that I should drink at once for maximum utilization of mineral and utilization of that water is 5 ounces. The max that I should drink of water at a time is 5 ounces because I weigh 200 pounds. So I weigh 200 pounds, I should drink 5 ounces, and I drink 5 ounces until I get to, if I'm normal, until I get to my 80 ounces. Or I could drink 4 ounces every 30 minutes for 10 hours a day. So 5 ounces. So, okay, I can only drink 5 ounces. But what if, like, instead of drinking every 30 minutes, if I drank every hour? If I drank 10 ounces in an hour, would that be the same as drinking 5 ounces every 30 minutes? Nope, it's not. You're actually going to end up with 5 ounces that your body's able to use, and the other 5 ounces are going to end up just water in your bloodstream, and they're going to end up just creating extra urine. So you're only going to use about 5 ounces for half your body weight in ounces in a 30-minute. So half your body weight in ounces divided by 20 is about how much you can use in a 30-minute period. After 30 minutes, you could drink more. But if you drink more than that in that period of time, it may add to extra coolant, because sometimes you're really hot and working out and you need some extra coolant. At that point, maybe you drink extra water. Cool. But you're only going to benefit, you're only going to actually absorb into the cells and utilize for moving mineral well with about 5 ounces, or half your body weight in ounces divided by 20 in 30 minutes. Okay, that's a lot of numbers. This might just make your brain just. That's why I've put it into calculator. I have it as a calculator personally for myself. I don't have that calculator up accessible yet, but as you listen, you'll hear this kind of thing more and more, or you can text in, put a comment on, and I will tell you a little bit better how to do this. So drinking your water often. The most important thing is volume. So for me, with everything being normal, I need to drink 80 ounces a day. I need to spread that out the best I can. Okay. If I had extra salt, I would need to drink 100 ounces a day until those numbers come down to normal. Sometimes that's a week to 2 weeks if I'm really good about drinking that often. And the best one to actually do that is distilled water. Although I've seen it work with most any variety of water, with spring water or drinking water or other ones like that. It will still work in moving things the right direction. It's just not as efficient in getting the mineral from what you eat. So if you're taking minerals, if you're eating good foods and you want to optimally use those, you need to drink distilled water, because there's more room in distilled water to pick that up out of your food and carry it in. The only way that distilled water is detrimental and demineralizes you is if you don't have enough good mineral in your diet. If you don't have enough good mineral in your diet, there's no mineral for it to pick up. And if you're drinking too much, or even if you're drinking the right amount of distilled water, but you're not getting enough mineral, your distilled water is going to move the old mineral out at the right rate. But if you aren't bringing mineral in the right rate, you aren't replacing it. You should have an equal in and out. And if you don't got a good in, but you got a good out, you got a problem. Okay? Most times I find that people have high salts. Most times I find that people, it's high, they need to drink more water. That is way more common than otherwise. But if you're not sure, just drink 40% of your body weight in ounces and divide that by 20 if you can, or just break it up the best you can throughout the day and consistently drink that water, and it will have more of a profound influence on your body than most anything else. As it comes to actually filling in the proper mineral, the easiest thing to say at the beginning is just have the biggest variety of food you can. Eat different varieties of vegetables, eat different varieties of grains, eat different varieties of all the natural plants that God has created. The more processed it is, the more it lacks in mineral. We also beat up sugar these days in a lot of things. Most often, the foods that are bad for us are not bad for us because of what they are. They're bad for us because of what they are not. So most of our foods are not bad for us because of what they are. They're generally bad for us because of what they are not. For instance, with sugar, just take a cane sugar, for instance. We can have a white refined cane sugar, which is completely void of mineral and it's just sugar. But then everything that came off of that cane sugar is actually really amazing, and we use it as a mineral source as molasses. Combined, it still has mineral. Naturally, in the way that God created things, there is mineral in plants, and they go up at the same rate that sugars go up. The sweeter the plant is for its variety, the higher mineral there is. That doesn't mean that cane sugar has more, that cane plant has more mineral than any other plant. It just means for its variety. So alfalfa, the sweeter alfalfa is for its variety. The sweeter alfalfa is compared to another alfalfa, generally the more mineral that alfalfa is going to have. The more bitter or sour it is, the less mineral that is going to have. And yes, there are some plants that are bitter and sour and blick, and they're hard to eat, some of the greens and things like that, and they do have a lot of mineral in them. One, they would probably be sweeter and not so unpleasant if they were grown in actually good soil. And two, it's for its variety. So there are things that taste yucky. There are certain plants that, like herbs and things, that are always going to taste disgusting, like golden seal will never taste good. It's always bad. There are some weird people that think it tastes good, but for the bulk of people, golden seal tastes terrible, and it will always taste terrible. That's not going to change. But for its variety, for golden seal and other golden seals grown in different soils, the sweeter it is for its variety, or the more complex sugars it has for its variety, the more minerals that are going to be there, because they're mineral sugars. So for plants, or just in what we consume food wise, it's not about generally what it is, it's what it isn't. So when we refine foods, it means that they've been refined and removed all of the mineral, and now we just have the white flour or the other things like that. Does that make sense? So when you drink, if you have a mineral deprived diet and then you drink distilled water, you are going to be good at moving out any of the old waste, but you have nothing to replace it. And now we're going to blame it on the distilled water. The only difference in distilled water versus another water is you would have to drink far less distilled water, by 20 to 50% less, because it holds 20 to 50% more. You'd have to drink 20 to 50% less of distilled water to get the same results as you were of a spring water. So say you're drinking spring water and you're drinking 80 ounces a day, and your minerals are fine because you don't have a good mineral influx coming in. You would have to drink 16 ounces less of distilled water to get the same movement, to not be demineralizing yourself on it. It's not because it demineralizes you, it's because it's more efficient than the other waters. Does that make sense? And why would you want to waste your money on a water that's not as efficient? If you're bad at drinking water, why would you want to drink one that's less efficient? Drink, even just by switching, even if you didn't change the amount of water you're drinking, if you just change the variety of water you're drinking, you could actually be getting better hydrated. So if you're currently drinking a spring water and you know that you're drinking too little, you could switch to distilled water, and all of a sudden your water is more efficient. It's like you're drinking more. Pretty cool, right? Water is so vitally important. As I've said, it goes through every cell of the body and functions in so many processes of the body. If you're constipated, water can make a huge difference for it. And more often than not, the number one thing that every client that comes in needs to learn how to drink water properly. Now, I've talked a lot about increasing water, but I don't see it as often. Probably I see about 5 of them a year at the most, of individuals that are drinking too much water. And when you're drinking too much water, that's a problem. I see all the salts are gone, all the sugar's gone, everything just flushes out of the body. And so it's a balance of if you're drinking too much, nope, you can minimally only this amount. 90% of people I see drink too much, drink too little. But I had a client come in, she felt like she had 1 foot in the grave and just felt terrible and thinks everything's falling apart and just didn't know what to do. And I mean, she was vegan and all kinds of things, ate really good, but still felt terrible. And she weighed 120 pounds and drank a gallon a day. And I was like, nope, okay, you need to drink at the most, you can drink half your body weight in ounces. But actually, you need to drink 40% of your body weight in ounces. So that was a lot less. It was 40-ish ounces. Or maybe it was 60. No, 60 would be 120. Yeah. So it was 40 to 50-ish ounces a day versus the 126. And that alone made her feel fantastic. She very rarely saw me after that because all she had to do was drink less water. We did need to support her kidneys because We need to give some nutrients there because her body needed to get used to re-regulating to that small amount of water. But she actually was dehydrated on too much water. That sounds weird. Dehydrated on too much water. Yes. Because remember, as I talked about the sponge that holds onto your water, she constantly felt dry and needed more water and felt like she needed to drink more. And the reason was because she couldn't hold anything in her cells because her sponge was gone. She didn't have any electrolytes holding on to it. So she was dehydrating herself on too much water because she was flushing out all of the ability to hold on to the water. And by reducing the water to the right amount, she was able to actually hold on to it. So she was also demineralizing herself and everything like that, even without it being distilled water. And if it was distilled water, it would have been worse demineralization because she would have been moving even more out at that volume when she should have had so much less. And that's why it's so demonized, because it is more efficient than other waters, and nobody knows how to drink water properly. If you drink water properly, distilled water is superior. It takes less to accomplish the same thing and gets more mineral out of your food to transfer it into your body. But if you're not getting a mineral-rich diet, it's going to make it obvious your problems. So drinking too much water is a problem. Drinking too little water is a problem. 40% of your body weight in ounces is your target. And if you drink too much at once, you as well are going to waste it. So remember, it's half of your body weight in ounces, or sorry, 40% of your body weight in ounces, and then you divide that by 20. 40% of your body weight in ounces and divide that by 20. So I am 200 pounds, and that means that's 80 ounces. 40% of 200 is 80, and I divide that 80 by 20, which there's a little bit easier way to do it, but 80 by 20 is 4 ounces. Okay, so for me, the easiest way for me to divide that is actually to lose the 0 and cut the number in half. So 80. So I automatically know it's 4 because you just divide, you lose the 0 and divide the first number, the 8, so 80. So you lose the 0, now it's 8. And then you divide that 8 by 2, and that's how much you need to drink. So I would need 4 ounces is what I would most easily use. So I need to drink it in 4-ounce increments and get my total volume for the day. Don't drink 16 to 20 ounces at once because you're not going to use it as well. Drink a little bit often. Have something around that you can drink a little bit often, and you will actually use it better for absorbing mineral. It'll work better in your cells. And over time, at first you're going to pee a lot if you have extra mineral. Once you get rid of all that extra and you're drinking the right amount, you start to regulate. So any questions, you're welcome to put it down in the comments section. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about gluten. I guess I was in between minerals and gluten, proper mineral absorption. We're going to talk about gluten. I don't have all of the principles yet of like how to make the breads. I haven't made a lot of gluten-free breads, and one of the questions to my videos ago was how to do this for somebody that is gluten-free. So I'll have a couple suggestions there, but I haven't done a lot with those. But just as a principle of digestion and how digestion works, we're going to talk about the digestive system, but focus a little bit on understanding gluten and those individuals that currently avoid it, because it's a big hot topic these days that a lot of people are avoiding gluten and feeling better. But is it gluten that's the problem, or is it their digestive tract, or is it just the way that we're actually processing the things that have gluten in them? So we'll discuss that next time, where I've seen many times of individuals being able having to stay off gluten, get to the point they can consume it without a problem because their digestive tract got to the point that it was operating properly. But it's also, we just lost our traditions. We've lost our traditions of the way that we process our grains these days. So we'll discuss those different things in the next podcast. And if you have any other questions in the meantime, put them down in the chat. Please share this with your friends and family. And I will see you next time. I know we're ending just a little bit early, but we're going to end here. See you later.